everyone's understanding is, based on that article, the Route 88 corridor, the pipe would go inside of Route 88 somewhere, maybe even inside the median.
Nope, not going inside the median.
Okay, so thank you for clarifying that.
Nope.
It would have to still go through.
It
would still have to go through private property.
It could go, I mean, the route, if you go, I've been down 88, you've probably been down 88 a lot more than I have, because I've only been here for 4 months. But there are some challenges, whereas challenges in terms of getting really close to the edge of the pavement, like 50 feet. We're looking at, we got some routes on paper, we're looking at it, and I would like to know where the class 4 ends, if we're 500 feet off the pavement, if we're 1,000 feet.
But you must know that already.
What's that?
You must know that already.
No, we're still working through the route. We're still looking through the route. We're still looking at the route because of the terrain, the population density, the environmental impacts. We're looking at that route to see what makes the best sense.
Thank you.
Where the proposed construction line is supposed to meet with the Iroquois, Tennessee line, serve Boston, New York, in the top right.
Correct.
How long have those two pipelines been in place, and how many hazardous situations or emergency events have because they've been there?
I mean, I know Tennessee Gas has been up there, I think, since the late 50s, almost over 50 years. Iroquois went into service in 1992, so 20 years. The amount of incidents, I know of no major incidents, as in a rupture, I know of none. There may be, but I know of none. You can actually, DOT, Department of Transportation, under the Department of Transportation, we're regulated, there's a department underneath them called the PHMSA, PHMSA, Pipeline and Hazardous Material Safety Administration. I believe they have records and data about incidents or ruptures or fires with other pipeline companies, and that you can get information from that government agency. Yes, ma'am.
I was curious to know if you've ever heard of this expression of the Delaware County dirt deficit, and that we're 4 rocks to 1 dirt. On my particular when you get down a foot and a half, you're on bedrock. So what would be your proposal in that area? We have to go.
We understand there is
pouring, you're blasting.
Ripping rock, blasting rock, yes.
And where would that rock all go?
Well, it depends on what we probably have. If we bring in some padding material, we'd also try and churn up the rocks to get them to a much smaller size than they already are. But there probably will be some rock. We'll probably be hauling off some rock, and we'll be bringing in some padding material. We're well aware of that issue. There will be ripping, there will be blasting. Yes, ma'am.
How much does public opinion weigh as far as, say for example, every single person in this room goes to this docket number and tells every single person that they know that they want this along the I-88 corridor instead of through people's yards?
It's already been done. It's already been done.
But I mean, that's all I'm asking. Does it
it had so much of an influence that it's already been done. FERC has requested us to take a very hard, objective look at 88. Where we can put it on 88. We're looking at where we can put it on 88.
Excuse me, when you say 88, can you actually be in 88's right away?
We're trying to work with the DOT on that. We've already had 1 meeting with the DOT. We've had a lot of email, phone conversations with the DOT. Where we had 1 meeting. We're trying to get that information. First of all, how wide is your right-of-way? For example, our right-of-way, our permanent right-of-way on a pipeline is 50 feet. It's very clear. I think on the DOT right-of-way, they buy land, so it's a jigsaw. It's not just a straight 500 feet. We need to find out what that right-of-way is and what their requirements are in their right-of-way. Yes, ma'am.
Just curious, if you are going through pasture land, fenced-in pastures, where a farmer has built up a certain infrastructure for his operation, and you have to cut through it, do you then replace the fencing and put in the gates to whatever you want?
Drain tiles, irrigation systems, and now I remember I was going to say about land agents. Drain systems, irrigation tiles, fencing, we're all responsible for that. That's
then
our.
You come back and do continual testing of wells and that sort of thing?
I don't know if we do continual testing, but we do testing up. We can do testing up front.
But you don't do testing afterwards to determine if?
I mean, after construction. I mean, what I thought you meant by continual for decades or years.
Well, no, not decades.
No,
but
we
just
can do
a certain amount of
we can do
reasonable time.
we can do pre-construction, and we can also do post-construction. And let me, did I answer your question? We've done that. We've done that with water wells, people's water wells, pre-construction samples and post-construction samples. One thing about the land agents, with our 40 land agents, we have actually been working with landowners. We actually work with landowners who say, it's on my property, can you relocate it? I mean, I'm talking about off your land, but we've had many come say, well, it's a little bit close to my barn or my house or my pool or whatever, and we actually send a land agent and an engineer out there to go in what we call, not an alternate, but a tweak, like a little small reroute, where we make the landowner feel more comfortable and what's acceptable to him or her. And also, in dealing with another thing our landowners do is we address any concerns you have, like if you have underground utilities, electric service, cable service, where your water wells are, where they are. We don't want to run a pipeline right over your water well. We want to be away from your water well. So that's some of the duties of a land agent. It's not just to shove an easement in your face. It's to talk to, educate the landowners, address their concerns, bring out engineers if we have to do a reroute on your property. So it's a much more intense process than just what you might think. Yes, ma'am. What's that?
Where do you live?
I live in Albany, New York.
What about the jobs? You envision giving the local people some jobs?
Well, we have an 800 number, and we get quite a bit of calls. During the construction process of the pipeline, it's pretty quick. It's 10 months probably, 10 to 12 months.
It's not a labor-intensive industry, is it?
It's like an electric transmission line. The operations staff, if the pipeline is built and goes into service, there'll be about 10 people for the whole 120 miles operating the pipeline. In terms of construction, there'll be a much larger staff.
Just 10 months.
That's right. And it's a pretty intense economic impact, but it's not long. It's a year, a little bit less than a year.
Generally specialized contractors who come in and do this.
Well, what we do is we have specialized contractors, but they're union contractors, and they deal with the unions up here in New York State. And the typical I understand is it's like a 50-50 rule, that the contractor can bring in 50%, but they have to hire 50% local. And on top of that, it's a specialty contractor that does the ditching, the welding, which is extremely important for the safety of the pipeline, the bending of the pipelines. There's also other services like dust control, bringing in gravel, fencing, bringing in consumable type materials. So it does bring in some work to local contractors and also just local shops.
Right there.
Yes, sir.
The question that I have is, we've spent a lot of this morning, the whole conversation really on the potential problems, and we should. My curiosity is, do you have any figures on the potential customer service of natural gas, say, like sake of conversation, on your proposed #1 pipeline with the companies, Leatherstocking or whoever else is looking at running spurs off of that to, I mean, how many consumers, how many homes, potentially, or villages or whatever? I mean, what
You mean along the pipeline route?
Yeah, that potentially could end up with natural gas service and save some money on fuel oil, or businesses that could hook up to what's.
We have not gone enough into detail to determine that exact number. But I don't know if Joe or Mike.
Yeah. The one reason Leatherstocking got started was mainly the tech job. Being in the energy business, we have to supply a lot of businesses and whatnot with a competitive BTU. And obviously Amphenol came to us because we sell them a lot of energy. And the real crux of it is, we got 1,200 jobs here that we got to try to protect. So how we got involved with this is we saw the natural resource, similar to our water, kind of bypassing us. being exported. When we have a company here that's trying to compete, you know, they're paying $95, $100 barrel oil BTU, and they're trying to compete with businesses around the world. Natural gas is about $16, $18 a barrel, okay? And they just can't compete anymore. There's no more givebacks in labor. They got the same workers' comp issues as all of us have here. So the one area where they can see substantial savings is in the energy part. So what we do, we focus on the commercial stuff. You have the school districts, when you go into the community, the industries, obviously, and then from there you can branch off to the consumers, okay? And so that's what our focus is at leather stocking, is to really get this localized BTU to the local people, okay? Instead of it being exported out of the area. So that's how, and we have some numbers down around the areas we've looked at. We're probably looking at about 15,000 accounts, okay, just to get started. So when we start to translate that into school districts, we look at teachers' jobs. You know, school districts, the place I came from usually cost about $800,000 to heat the plant. They can probably do with natural gas for about $250,000. That translates in our mind to about 5, 6 teaching positions. So that's how we leather stocking got started in this town, is we need to get a BTU to our customers that they can afford to pay for, number one. Because when you're in our business, you know, when you get that fuel oil and propane bill every day, it's starting to be cumbersome for not only businesses, but the people. So that's what really got leather stocking started with this local gas thing. It's a cost issue. And Mike German can talk to you about, you know, how it's done, because he used to be the president of NICE, and that's why we hooked up with him. He's very good at expanding franchises.
We currently have 5 franchises along the, which we've recently acquired along the Constitution route. Village of Windsor, Village of Town of Cambridge, and Village of Town of Sydney. For those franchises, in the immediate time frame, we're looking at 2,500 to 3,000 customers, and including all the big ones, Amphenol, Midwest, Faco, etc. We're in the process of getting 5 additional franchises along the Constitution route. To get up to 15,000 will take, you know, a build out of over 10 years, but we think we can get 2,500 pretty quickly, just because of the economics. When you start with concentrated areas with their large customers, like Amphenol, and then you build out there. But again, we do expect to acquire another 5 franchises in the next 6 months to have a total of 10 along the route of Constitution.
You presented that program to Sydney, saying you were going to get gas from drilling. So this didn't start with the Constitution line. You said you were going to do maybe primarily vertical drilling to provide gas to Sydney, and that's how you got that passed through Sydney. So let's not act like this was ever associated with the Constitution line before. And besides that, Amphenol's paying their bills to Moravido now for oil. So the check's going to go to the same place, right? So this isn't going to be bad for you. This is so duplicitous.
I would say we do not drill. We're not a drilling company. We're not a pipeline. We're not a pipeline company. We will never do any drilling. We're utilities, and we're open access. And
and you were promoting drilling in my town.
I was not promoting drilling. We have nothing to do with drilling, and this is their meeting, not ours.
Where's the floor? Okay. Over here.
Yes, sir.
It's interesting to hear that discussion. If there's such a market here locally for the gas, why is there a need to export it at all?
What do you mean export?
The whole point of the pipeline is to export gas from Pennsylvania to Albany and then to wherever else you find a market.
New York City and the Boston market.
Or wherever else you find a market, right?
That's the current market right now, is New York City and Boston. And the reason why is because we're in a rural area. This pipeline flow rate is 650 million cubic feet per day. If we were to tap into every town and provide every home along this route with gas, that still would not get anywhere near 650 million cubic feet per day. It's got to go to a population center. It's got to go to a large. It's 650 million cubic feet per day is the equivalent of heating 3 million homes.
So that market's not big enough to even matter to you?
Absolutely doesn't matter to us.
Well, I mean,
It does matter to us.
I don't mean to say it that way. I don't mean to make it say it sound that way. I'm just saying that's a drop in the bucket compared to what the market is that you're looking for.
Of course, I mean, it just makes it. We were not going to build a pipeline. We're not going to build a pipeline. It's not going to make economic sense to build a pipeline 121 miles to feed
I'm sorry, I
50,000 homes.
That's
We're not going to. That's what's not going to happen. So we have to build it. We have to build an infrastructure to support enough homes to make it viable, to make the project viable.
And the gas is being used domestically though when you're sending it?
Correct. Correct.
I've been trying to listen to what you've been saying this morning, listening to comments from the audience, and any of them about. I think I am maybe taking a different stance than the majority of the people here. The pipeline appears to serve a purpose. If I'm understanding you correctly, you've done cost analysis on how to effectively put the pipeline in. I'd also assume that you've done a risk analysis to the hazards that are presented by putting the pipeline in. We all have to admit that there is some risk associated. The same as we see in rail systems, highway systems.
Well, what in terms of risk, in terms of getting customers signed up and getting the pipeline full, or risk in terms of not being permitted, denying our permit being denied?
The risk of the pipeline itself. It has to be, I think, admitted that there is some risk, but it's an acceptable risk.
But you mean safety risk, economic risk? What kind of risk are you talking about?
I just asked, I believe there are two risks. There is an economic risk, there's a safety risk. The analysis and the engineering has been done on both of those. And it appears that there are some. I can remember when we did the Tennessee pipeline through our apartments to Erie County. It wasn't very calm and very open at the time. And my father had the same comments that I'm hearing here. The bottom result was that everything worked out fine. The process went through. The farmland has turned back over. And you really didn't know that it was there other than the markers where the pipeline is going through. We also do the fire protection for Iroquois gas and had one in Tennessee years ago. The safety factors that they have in place are phenomenal. The way that they can control the systems, they've gone well beyond what their needs are. And I think that's some of the questions that are here. It's what's the safety? Iroquois gas, they control that entire pipeline in my computer.
Yep.
Plus they have manpower at the substation and at the pumping station, especially the one you hear in the right.
We'll have the same thing. We'll have all of our facilities monitored from a remote area. It's called gas control in the pipeline business. It's called gas control. It'll be monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'll have an operations staff up at the compressor station in Story County, and they'll be working the regular 40 hours a week to operate and maintain the pipeline. Then there'll also be someone always on call, 24 hours a day.
Yeah, their response is in a matter of seconds when they know there's something happening, and then they bring manpower out. We want basically it's travel time to the sites.
That would be our intent too. For example, by DOT guidelines, we have to have what we call block valves to segment the pipeline off about every 10 miles. And on those block valve settings, we can monitor pressure. We can also monitor the position of the valve, open or close, and we can also control the valve. If it's open, it needs to be closed. We can do it remotely. We can close it remotely. So our gas control and our people at our compressor station will know there's a drop in pressure and also the position of the valve. They will know that, and they will if there's an immediate drop in pressure, there would be a phone call to the person on call from our gas control to someone here, and they'll go out and investigate the situation. And we have done a risk analysis from an economic, we've done business cases, we've done multiple business cases, and it's gone through both Williams and Cabot to make sure it's economically viable.
Several years ago, there was an explosion in Lebanon that
Yes.
claimed several people's lives, and I understand that was an LP line. Could you talk or speak to the differences or the distinction between an LP line and a natural gas line, and also speak to the safety issues related to those different types of lines?
Well, the main thing I know is the propane line. It was in 1990 in Lebanon. Propane is denser than air, so it's low lying. It doesn't go up in the air.
So because it's denser, it doesn't rise in the atmosphere?
Correct. But then natural gas, its density is 0.6 times the density of air. So it goes up in the air.
So for lay people, what's all that mean?
If there's an incident, just a leak, the gas is going to go straight up in the air. It's not going to migrate down into a valley or down into someone's home or someone's hot water heater or someone's car. If there's an incident, it will go straight up in the air.
As it disperses into the air, the point of ignition is less available.
It's up in the air. It's not low lying and going into someone's
When
yard.
it's on the ground, there's a lot of possible points of ignition.
So because it disperses into the air, it's not going to explode, but we're saying it's being diluted?
Yes, it would be diluted, it'd be going up in the air. So up in the air, there would be no ignition sources. Unlike if it's low lying and it's going across a road where cars are going by, that's an ignition source.
So it's safer?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just curious, why isn't Cabot available to speak to? Has it been going to any of the open houses?
No, I don't think they attended any open houses.
Why is that?
Well, per our agreement, it's a limited liability partnership between Cabot and Williams. Williams has been building and operating interstate gas pipelines for decades. Cabot is a producer. They produce gas. It's our expertise and our business to design, route, permit, and construct and operate and maintain interstate gas pipelines. That's why we're doing it.
Right, but someone ever said that Cabot drills and that they're a producer.
That's correct.
So, they're working in tandem with you, and it would be, I would think, prudent to know what their intent was. I mean, it's not just going to be their vision for wherever they want to do it. This area is going to stop at the Constitutional Pipeline. It would be interesting to be able to speak to them and find out what their plans were.
Well, that's one request that we've gotten. We filed what I said, environmental resource reports with the FERC. And there's resource reports 1 through 12 and 1. There's what they call it's a scope, and it also includes the purpose and need. And we've been asked to expound on that, and that's where we're going to expound on the purpose and need, where the actual gas is going.
You are doing that? Cabot's not?
No, we'd have to be working in tandem, but Williams will actually do the document and file it with the FERC.
But to add to that as well, Cabot also has their private affairs department, and, sorry.
You're right,
And if you would like to contact them, you can do that. If you want, to develop a relationship with them.
I'm not trying to kick Cabot's a good producer, just that it's our business to
I just seem
design.
curious that it's obviously a joint event, and they're not here to present their intent, their motives, or anything like that. So it's just I find it
Some of that may come out in our next, in October, we'll be filing our.
Cabot drills, but you don't get revenue from their drilling. You get revenue from the transport.
That's right.
So it's two corporations, from what I
I
understand.
understand that, but
I understand your question.
It's like we're at the highway. We all use it.
right, I understand they both, but they need each other. I mean, if there were no Cabot, or producers like that, there'd be no need to have Williams, and Williams also needs Cabot. So,
Well, then what would we use for energy?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just interested in what Cabot's
Ma'am,
plans were.
your question is very good, and we're addressing that in our resource report. We're going to expound on in our reports to FERC about the purpose and need, and that would include some of the Cabot, what their intentions are. And let me make one more statement about FERC is the ultimate decider of the project not only the ultimate decider if they're going to approve it or deny the project, they're also the ultimate decider of the route. It's not Williams, it's not Kevin, it's the firm. They ultimately decide the route that they will permit, if they do permit their route.
You have time for a couple more questions.
650 meters per day. How long is that going to last up in Pennsylvania without fracking in the state?
I cannot speculate on the production.
20-year contract, so.
We have 15-year firm contract signed with Cabot and Southwest. We have 15.
I'm just wondering.
My area of expertise is not in drilling. I don't know what the reserves are in Pennsylvania. I can't speak to that. There are others that can speak to it. I can't speak to how much reserves there are.
How do we find that information out?
One more question to that.
I'd think about that.
Cabot, perhaps?
Yeah, you could go to Cabot. What would be best, actually, your best avenue would be to ask a question and a comment to FERC.
One last question back here.
If drilling were to occur in New York State, we're hearing it might occur in southern tier sooner rather than later. How would we have to be transported?
I'll answer the question. The question is, when you set up, if you're drilling in Pennsylvania, I'm not talking about New York, if you're drilling in Pennsylvania, you got wellheads. It's the same thing. You got wellheads. You have to have a gathering system. Not an interstate gas pipeline system, but a gathering system. The gathering system consists of gathering pipelines, separation facilities, because when the gas comes out of the well, you've got to separate out, you got to clean the gas up to make sure it gets what we call pipeline quality, where it's mostly methane. Then you also have gathering compressor stations. It's a gathering system. It has to be done to be able to put all the wells together.
And then would it be transported through other pipelines or by trucks?
I'm just talking about pipelines. The most efficient way and the safest way and the most economical way by far to transport natural gas is in a pipeline, not in a truck, it's in a pipeline. By far. Safety, economics, environment, it's a pipeline.
So from Pennsylvania, it's going through many pipelines into, you want it to go into the Constitution pipeline. So there are all other pipelines coming to feed it. Is that
Yep.
correct? Yes?
Yep. I use an electrical, let me use an electrical analogy for you. You use electricity, don't you? Absolutely, all of you use electricity. Think about the electrical system. You've got a power plant coming out of that. Well, first of all, you got a coal mine. You're taking a coal from a coal mine into a power plant. Then you got a power plant. Then you have transmission lines, and then you look out here and you see lots and lots of distribution lines to get electricity to people that people want the electricity. And people want natural gas. Look at the map on the first. I just think that spells it right there. The American people want natural gas. That's why those pipelines are built. The pipelines weren't built first, and then the people came. The people asked for those pipelines. So those pipelines were built to serve the people. They wanted natural gas.
I grew up next to a factory in Brooklyn, 14.
Yep.
I lived in Manhattan, I lived in Newark, I lived right practically next door to all the oil refineries in New York. Where I had oil problems for years. And down to the house in the oil field. Okay. And I understand what you're saying, but we're trying to protect something here. That's why I'm asking the questions. So that where we live doesn't become Brooklyn in 1950s. That's all I'm asking the questions. I understand.
I understand your
I
question.
understand it. We need the energy. I'm just asking, how protected will we be when all of
Well, here's where I go again. Natural gas is the cleanest burning fossil fuel there is. It's domestic. It's here in the United States, and it's abundant, and it's affordable.
And
I think it's
at this point, folks, it's 9:30. If you want to go around and ask other questions, but I'd like to thank everybody for comments because This is a very important issue. There's an opportunity, and some people may not see it as that. I think we should take a step back and try to get a good look at the big picture. We're going to burn coal, that's an answer. We're going to burn fuel oil, that's an answer. We can't, unfortunately, have all wind power or solar power or hydro power. So we have an opportunity here to heat our homes and drive our costs down. Take a very good look at it and weigh in at where we would like to see it. Thank you.